Hello. More progress on scripting things. So I've added a new tab on the right here that says, it's kind of hard to read when it's sideways actually, but it says script development. So create a script. You can now right click and say open in development panel, or you click this button here. And the reason for this panel was originally I added this just to improve logging, because I realized somebody on Discord was like, I can't remember what they said, but they were like working with scripts in Blockhead, and they posted a log, and I was like, what? I haven't added any like logging capabilities, but I realized what they were doing was just using the built-in Lua print function, where you can just go print hello, and I don't do any sort of handling for that, but if by default it will just, if you have a terminal attached to Blockhead like I do here, then it will just appear there. But this is not very good because of the way that scripts are executed in Blockhead. It gets a bit subtle in because blocks can basically execute in parallel. Blockhead tries to be clever about, for example, I'll try and explain what I'm talking about. If I have two process input blocks and some kind of, say I have a block like this, Blockhead's clever enough to realize that these two script blocks don't depend on each other. So if the input to both of these script blocks changes at the same time, then these two blocks might execute in parallel. And so you might get a bunch of like interleaving of your log messages if you try and just use print. So anyway, I've left print as is. I'm not going to remove it, but I've added something which is much better now, which is debug log. And so this will now appear here. Get rid of that one. And also, if you write something that's an error, like try and call a function that doesn't exist, then you'll get a display of the error. So the debug log is basically, I think it works the same as print pretty much. You can, it's a variadic function, so you can keep adding more and more arguments. And then each one goes on a separate line. Like that. Right, subtle things. So in Blockhead we have this concept of cloning. So if you press Control-Shift-Z, I can create a clone of this block, which is not the same thing as a copy. So it's the same block in two different places, in two different contexts, which means that whether or not a particular branch is taken in a script, if you have conditional stuff going on, depends on the context in which it's placed in the workspace. For example, I could do a branch here which uses this. There's a function in the function that I provide called isSilent, for example. So I can check if the input buffer is silent. So if there's no audio coming from above, basically, then I could say debug log is input is silent, else debug log input is not silent. So just to make things clearer, let's give this block a name. So that will appear in the display here. The labels, on the other hand, are per block instance. So I can call this one left, even though this is the same block in two different places. Call this one left and this one right. So we know what we're looking at is, so the one where we've currently got open is the left. If you want to look at the one on the right, then open that like that, or click the button, yeah. So left, input is not silent because this thing's here. right, input is silent. If we move this over here now, input is not silent for the right. It's just to try to drill home the concept of the same script can have different can take different branches depending on where it is in the workspace. And so the debugging panel works with that. You could either do something like if it's not silent, then do something that's an error, for example. So now this one is fine. This one has an error. Yeah, and if you have multiple scripts that have errors, then they'll appear here. Anything else? I think that was everything I wanted to show. Yeah, okay.